Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Finally Feel Free event. Today, I have such a special guest, Nadine Artemis. She is the author of Renegade Beauty and Holistic Dental Care. She is the founder of Living Libations, a beyond luxury line of organic, wildcrafted, non-GMO serums, elixirs, and essential oils for those seeking the purest of the pure, botanical, natural health, wellness, and beauty products on the planet. Her healing creations, along with her concept of renegade beauty, encourages effortlessness and inspires people to rethink conventional notions of beauty and wellness. Nadine is a beauty philosopher, aromacologist, and botanical muse. Nadine believes in simplicity and a natural, rhythmic, natural approach. She is a disruptor to the mainstream idea of wellness, beauty, and beauty products, a frequent commentator on health and beauty for media outlets, and her products have been received rave reviews in New York Times, Goop, New York Magazine, Vogue, InStyle, The Hollywood Reporter, and so much more. And she has been described by Alanis Morissette as a true sense visionary, and the Aveda founder calls Nadine a pure flower of creativity. Nadine, welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, it's so good to have you. And today we are talking about the concept of beauty in society today, its connection to self-care, and also how to really activate our inner radiance and our inner beauty. So first of all, I just want to start off by asking you, how did the concept of renegade beauty begin? How did that, where did you get your inspiration for that?
Well, back when I was a teen, it was the 80s. And so I had a lot of fun, just being like a teen in the 80s, like makeup. And I was the youngest in the family. So I got sort of all the hand-me-downs of the makeup and the bottles and all that.
Yeah.
And and I happened to do this project in grade 9, like a science fair project. So I decided that I would do it on perfume.
Mm.
And because I discovered this book at the library that was like, actually, it was all about cosmetics.
Mm.
And there was this great chapter on perfume. I had like tons of bottles. I would mix. I mean, again, this is all just the synthetic perfume, like the Chanel and the
Yeah.
Machin Noir, and I'd mix them, the little bottles, and collect them. But then I got to read this chapter and then study making perfume. And, you know, it's like we know so much more now, but back then, all the backs of the bottles, the labels, it was just all these like weird words, and you thought that's was the cosmetic, it's just these ingredients. You didn't really have any connection to them. And
Yeah.
then reading about perfume, it really grounded it in because it was like talking about, looking at ancient Egypt and the distillation of plants. And it was like the
Mm.
distilledness of like cedar or rose or frankincense, and then understanding how those were made or pressed or tinctured or extracted or distilled into the essences. And then
Mm.
the book spoke about being able to find the equivalent, or like what is a distilled thing. Sorry about Angel.
That's
We're
okay.
doing a podcast. And so um oh my God, she's never usually barks during the podcast. Come here, come here. Okay, so then it said that they're called essential oils, and you could probably find them at a health food store. So that was super cool. My mom drove us to the big city, went to a health food store because there weren't as many back then. And I got my first whiff of like lemongrass, jasmine, ylang. I was totally like mesmerized, and they spoke to me in such a different way. At that point, I didn't have, the we didn't know like synthetic versus natural quite like we do
Mm.
now, but it
Mm.
spoke to me in a different way. And then I'm 18, I'm at university, and I'm so sorry, I think it's best if I'm better
That's
out.
okay.
So I'm at university, I'm really in those, and I actually had a whole big book I got on like reading this. And then it just took me a moment to like really kind of get what was going on with all the labels on my beauty products. And, I was like, thinking I was getting green stuff back then with the Body Shop. And then I was like, really came to realize, oh, there's no dewberry flower. There's no like cucumber in the cucumber face toner. The fuzzy peach oil had never been impeached with like real, there's no peaches in there or anything like that. So seeing that, but it was really cool because it just was this moment. And that's where my beauty got renegade, where I was like, I'm gonna, I finally get to really make like, so as a kid, I would just concoct or mix and, I had that inclination, but now I got to really make things from scratch. And so as I went through university, I did research and contacted distillers all over the world, and then got in and started to import my own raw materials because I couldn't find what I was reading about. I was reading, any aromatherapy book I could find back then, but also a lot from the 18th century.
Oh, wow.
There was a lot of good books written in Europe, and they're looking, so that was before, because things got kind of synthetic, right? Like the early 1900s. And that's when there was that real division between like, not like the plant, but like what's the pharmacopoeia? What can we extract and isolate, synthesize, that kind of stuff. So prior to that, you've got just like this plethora of like beautiful information. And in the 1800s, they were also sometimes looking back to antiquity, that kind of thing. And then also looking at like, what were they making in ancient Egypt? And then, kind of recreating recipes that I could. I mean, if they were accurate, but then having to find like, the ingredients, which weren't at the health food store. And then once I started to import things, I also realized there was a quality out there that was way beyond like what I was inhaling at the health food store, for example. And so that was really mind blowing. And even if it was a beautiful, simple oil, well, they're all kind of simple in a way, but I mean like a common one like tea tree or lavender, and then just or peppermint, just it's such a different creature when it's real and it's not like something that's like semi-natural or natural with isolates or like menthol instead of actual peppermint. So that was really cool. And then right when I graduated from university, I opened up North America's first full concept aromatherapy store. We had a blending bar and all of that was really cool. And then also while I was at university, I was really going into, I did end up taking women's studies, and I found that fascinating because I was able to I really focused on the history of women's bodies. Obviously that's huge, and all, trans-historically and cross-culturally, there's all kinds of things. But really, whether it's the history of, using mercury and lead in our cosmetics, or just, the ways that we have contorted and distorted our bodies in the name of beauty that really haven't been such beautiful practices.
Yeah.
And it was really at that point too, where to me, beauty just seems so inextricably bound to health. Like, right. So things like, and then I also discovered like books by, there's this European naturopath sort of looking at that early 1900s. There's this sort of European hygienist movement, about sunbathing and getting in natural, rivers to bathe and dry brushing and that kind of stuff. So I was just like, drinking it all in.
No, that's such a fascinating story. And, it's interesting that you mentioned how we kind of contort ourselves, or like there's been a practice of, not truly honoring like our health and just who we are in the name of beauty. And I just wanted to ask you, like, how do we kind of like, if we're talking about inner beauty, because we're all so different and we're all coming from different cultures, different backgrounds, we all have different features, all of this kind of stuff, but there's things that connect us like our skin and our organs and just how we look on the inside. And I know you talk a lot about how even I was watching a video of you talking about dry brushing, for instance, and how doing that for the skin affects us on the inside. So how do we kind of like awaken that inner radiance?
Well, I feel like the main thing, and it doesn't matter where you are on the planet or where you came from, is really connecting to the elements.
Mm.
And just literally because they're like they're what's giving everything life force on the planet. So
Yeah.
it's really at the end of the day, it's not about another jar of a cream. It's not something that, I mean, yes, that's there, but it's not this thing we're going to apply or take another supplement. But
Mm.
really, the foundation is that connection to the cosmos. And I think of that as sort of cosmoetics. And
Mm.
so we really want to engage with the elements as the thing that really will resource us,
Mm.
connecting us to whatever it is that's making everything happen,
Mm.
that will revive our beings. You know, if you think of like, a mother, because
Mm.
they need lots of love because they got a lot of output.
Yeah.
And where is that real rejuvenation going to come from? And it's about when we connect to like what created us. And to me, that's, the sun. So we're
Mm.
bringing that in and we can learn how our skin was literally designed to
Mm.
engage with the sun's rays. Or water,
Mm.
obviously. We have, a lot of us have running water in our homes. So it's about like maybe prior ages, there was a bit of survival with the elements, for shelter or that kind of stuff. Where do we find water? Now there's too much sun. But now in this day and age, and we can have a more relaxed relationship with the elements because most of us can have shelter and we have running water and that kind of thing. So but then because of that comfort we can forget about the whole world outside, and
Mm.
that really our beings need that, like the filaments of our beings need to connect with the filaments of the heavens.
Mm.
And so, and then we've got, so water, hopefully, you can jump in a ocean, a lake, a river sometimes, dance in the rain, and then, have, well water maybe coming out of your taps, or a filter, and like, bathing. That's such, just having a bath feels so good. And it is sort of nourishing for the soul. I think a lot of people will find that. And to that, you could add other elements like minerals, like magnesium or iodine or
Mm.
frankincense oil. And then we've got air, of course, we need fresh air. So you can like walk in the forest for forest bathing. It's winter here. And
Mm.
I will, especially when it's sunny out, I'll just open up those, the door, and it's maybe even -10, -20, and I'll just get that sun on as much skin as I can, even though there's not even any violet rays for a tan.
Yeah.
So just engaging and getting that fresh air. One of the presidents, I can't remember, of the United States, was it Benjamin Franklin? Anyway, he would literally just open up his windows. He had a chair there and he would just sit there naked.
Mm.
Um, you know. So we've got the sun, the air, water, the earth. So,
Mm.
nourishing foods. I
Mm.
make a lot of formulas for the body from all the beautiful plants, and just like lying on the earth,
Mm.
walking. Maybe you can walk barefoot sometimes.
Mm.
Gathering those electrons, bringing them into the body. And so we want to think of really engaging with nature,
Mm.
which is the elements, as much as we can, as sort of a baseline, a foundation.
Mm. Yeah, no, I love that. And does that help us come back to, I mean, of course it does, because connecting with nature is love and it causes us to come back to ourselves and have that deeper connection to the higher realms and ourselves and everything like that. How do we start having love for just our own individual type of beauty? Because
That's a
not
good
everybody
question.
feels
Yeah,
beautiful, even
that's
they are, but they just don't feel it. How do we connect
well, and
back?
I think that is kind of the thing, is you want to feel it, because I feel like beauty really is a feeling on
Mm.
one level. I mean, sure, we can look at the models or whatever, but we all know people too. Like, obviously, if we think of like in the celebrity world, people that we can all just see, and they may not be like classically like, you know,
Mm.
beautiful in what, but they are,
Yeah.
because they've been able to kind of, yeah, they get their soul and their glow and it's coming out through their pores. So yeah, we want to feel good.
Mm.
I think, engaging with the elements like we just talked is one way to ground in, feeling good, because we do need that nourishment. You know, it does feel good to like stand on the earth with your bare feet and watch the sunrise. And it's so good for you. It engages the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and antimicrobial peptides and amino acids are engaged. And so there's a whole bunch of physiological amazingness that happens when we're doing that. But at the same time, too, you're having a beautiful experience. And almost in those moments of real, true beauty, you're not. Your thoughts, your worries, that river of maybe negative thinking doesn't exist. If you're really in that present moment and engaging with the awe, then you're in that relationship. And so I think that's one good way. And then we do have to also, think about beautiful things and beautiful thoughts and have a good relationship to that river of that stream of thoughts that are playing, just that babbling brook in our minds.
Yeah.
We do want to consciously engage with that and know what we had just thought. You know what I mean? Because we could maybe have an hour go by and we don't even know, what we're thinking in that moment. I don't know why she's barking now. She's able to go inside and outside. The door's open. Getting all the cold air in.
No, it's all good. We're all animal lovers here, so I'm sure my cat's there, and I was like, is she gonna create? But she's fine. Oh, oh, beautiful. So can we do you have any practical I'm sure you do. Like, what are some practical steps for us to start just taking care of ourselves, like our skin, our teeth, our hair, to start tapping into that world of beauty? Maybe it could be a mother that's just so consumed in being a mother that she's kind of forgotten those rituals, or someone who's maybe going through a divorce or a breakup and they just don't feel that attractive right now. It could just be or sometimes nothing has to happen and you just have lost that connection to just, loving yourself in that way. So what are some practical things we can do?
Well, yeah, there's so many practical things. And so you want to keep being directed by like what feels good and what's making you feel good. And one thing that's really key, I think, is feeling good about the skin you're in. And, so sometimes that literally does require like kind of getting your, shifting your skin a bit, because if you've had cystic acne for 10 years, that might be hard. And so there's so many solutions though. And, we've helped so many people clear that up. I mean, every day we get emails from people that are like, they feel more confident. They don't have to leave the house with makeup, which is awesome. You're just feeling that freedom.
Yeah.
Of course, it doesn't matter if you wear makeup, but just it's fun to feel like you don't have to necessarily. And so really one of the key things for taking care of the skin, also when we look back to ancient cultures, is the oiling of the skin. And, whether it was like for the Turkish baths where they would oil up the skin and then use something called a striegel, which is kind of like a gua sha, which is a traditional Chinese medicine tool. It's made out of a crystal or a horn. Horn has like very smooth, or even wood or even metal. And so the striegel was almost like, it was metal and it was a tool. It's almost like the back of a butter knife. So very smooth. And then you kind of oil up and then scrape the skin. Scraping's a bit of seems like a hard word because it's not harsh at all. Almost like dry brushing where you're just lightly going through and then you'd like go in the bath. The Berber women would have, be using oil, and Moroccans, Cleopatra. She had her own stills. She had like a whole bathroom area that was like stills, and then distilling fresh rose water and crazy things like that, using crocodile fat for, some of her infusions. But anyway, so oiling the skin is key. And that was way before we ever had surfactants like sodium lauryl sulfate, foaming up our skin, destroying our lipid barrier. And now when people are studying the skin microbiome, so we're sort of looking now more at like the microbiomes of the body. Most people are familiar with the gut, but there's a huge microbiome on our skin. It's also oral, the nose, the ears, the vaginal microbiome for women. So that when we can allow the bacteria, because now we know, like about 20 years ago, we didn't really know about the microbiome and bacteria. And, even in the 80s, we thought that the stomach was a sterile environment. And so now we know that our skin is like this tapestry of, teeming with trillions of bacteria, just as much as our cellular life.
Wow.
So got billions of cells, billions of bacteria. And anything that we're doing in the name of beauty, we want to protect and allow that microbiome to flourish. And so, as odd as it may sound, we want to allow the bacteria to be the beautician. And we want to have a friendly environment, because then the bacteria, the good bacteria, which should be the more prevalent force, will take care of pathogenic bacteria for you. And so we want to, do that. So when we're putting a lot of chemicals or sodium lauryl sulfate or like harsh alcohol toners, scrubbing the skin and over exfoliating with like plastic beads or chemical peels, we're literally like stripping the soil of our skin. And when we look at that under a microscope, we're seeing that the surfactants from that foaming face cleanser, even if it's mild, or the harsh, anti-acne cleanser, whatever, that they're all leaving behind microscopic splinters, so to speak, in the stratum corneum, that top layer, and they're not going away once we rinse. And so they're on a microscopic level just jamming up the whole system. And we don't want that, because over time, that's going to like micro accumulate. And then that could be a patch where there's like eczema, or that, or that area is like a rosacea or just not flourishing. So you want to actually wash with oil, cleanse with oil, even if you have cystic acne, because it will take it away and will balance the skin and the lipid layers. Because when we're so harsh with the chemicals, then we're creating this catch-22, and it's throwing the oils off. It's just throwing the whole production off of that cellular regeneration that's happening all the time from the in that top layer of our skin, which is, as thick or as thin, I should say, as a just like this side of a credit card. So that's the top layer. And in that top layer, there's 5 layers in that one slice, so to speak. And so that has a whole cellular cycle where there's cells generating up from the basal layer, going up through the layers to that top layer. And when we over exfoliate, then we're making the young cells come up to the surface when they're too vulnerable, and like, making young kids in charge. And it's kind of like, walking out the front door and just leaving your door open and going on vacation. You're just leaving your skin vulnerable. And our skin is very much inextricably bound to our innate immune system. So we want to have that all just functioning. And we just kind of got like modern skincare. We kind of have to like just step away from all those chemicals so that we can allow the breathability and the cellular cycle to happen properly on our skin.
Wow, that's so fascinating, because I know that there's like a kind of trend right now of everybody just like using chemical peels and like exfoliating like weekly with, certain acids and all of that kind of stuff. So so it's good to know. You probably shouldn't do that. But with the oils, like cleansing with the oils, is it that we put on oils before like taking a shower or like washing our face or something? Or is it that we actually use the oils itself to cleanse?
Yeah, well, you can kind of do both, but you're actually using the oil to cleanse. And it's pretty simple. So, we make like these beautiful best skin evers. But you really can, I love to just give like what maybe you'll have in your pantry. If you use just like a true organic olive oil, because there's a lot of like not real olive oil out there, but real olive oil, or a gorgeous organic jojoba, or coconut oil, like true virgin, although it is solid at room temperature. So you can even mix it with one of those, like
Mm,
30/70, 40/50 kind of thing.
mm,
You can just literally buy like a bottle of olive oil or that and have it, like, how long would that last? That would last months, maybe a year, right? And you
mm,
can just use that to wash your face. So what you'd be doing is you can wet your face first, or you can use a damp cotton round. I
mm,
suggest that if you do have acne or just like a lot of disruption on the skin,
mm,
because I suggest a cloth, but I think if you've got the acne, you want to just use that cotton around and dispose it each time,
mm,
because there could be detergents in your washing machine that are aggravating your skin. So it depends on your level of sensitivity. But
mm,
other than that, what I use is we have these organic face cloths, just that classic terry texture. So really that any classic face cloth. And then you just wet a spot, squirt on the oil, and then you're just, cleansing circular, whatever you want, whatever feels good. It just feels good. It will remove makeup. Obviously, if you've got makeup, you'll use a cotton round, I think, to get off the mascara and stuff, because you don't want that on your cloth.
mm.
And then you can splash with a bit of water, and then one more squirt of that olive oil of the best skin ever, and you're good to go. So it can literally be that simple.
Wow. So you're literally putting the oil on and then just like going like that basically, and then
Yeah.
rinsing.
Yeah. You can just pre-wet a bit, or wet that cotton round or wet the cloth
Mm,
and squirt the oil on. And then what's fun is you can actually do that with your whole body. I
mm,
like doing the cloth would, I think, be more ideal for that. So that could be like after the bath or shower, and
mm,
then just a bit of that damp cloth, squirt the oil, and that classic terry face cloth is gives you enough of exfoliation each day. Like,
mm,
we can exfoliate, but it just has to be like with the right thing and not
mm,
obsessively. And if you want to sometimes just make that a little more scrubby, so to speak, you
mm,
could add a pinch of baking soda, a dash of clay, to that wet face cloth and oil, and it will
mm,
give a bit of grit if
mm,
you wish. That's like, almost doing like a body scrub that way too. So you could still do that in
mm.
the shower, add that baking soda, and you'll have the smoothest skin after.
Wow,
And
that's
then there's this, yeah, and then people see things like within 24 hours, and then depending on your state of skin, right? So, it might, if you've got cystic acne, that's going to take a month or two,
mm.
but you'll be so encouraged right away.
Hmm. And what about, because I know I was gonna just ask, will there be a little bit of a pushback from the skin or like, oh no, what's happening? Because I know oils, especially like with psoriasis or eczema, like, is that okay for people who have those?
It's so good for that.
Oh,
So good for that. Rosacea, psoriasis, and eczema are really coming out of a microbial imbalance on the skin surface too. The rosacea is actually a mite,
mm,
uh, like a mite on the microscopic scale, like a bug.
mm,
Although we have them everywhere. Have you ever?
mm.
If you look up, if you want to Google like eyelash bugs, for
Yeah.
example,
Oh,
we live
God.
there, and we
I don't
gotta
know if
keep
I'd
them
want
happy.
to.
I know you probably don't want to, but it's just like, we gotta keep harmony there. Um,
Mm,
so yeah, it's very good. Now, I'd say like 2% of the time, so very rarely there'll be like there can be a cleansing, like where the other products that you've been using that had built up in your stratum corneum,
mm,
like there can be like a week where this other stuff's coming out, but normally you can just glide through that. And I
mm,
find it fascinating with deeper cases of rosacea and acne, because I'm also a big believer in, like, figuring out what are you going to eat and your gut
mm.
health. That really affects, your skin as well. But
Yeah.
what I love is that so many people have phenomenal results by just cleansing with the oil. And then that's because, like, changing your whole diet is pretty complex and can take a
Mm,
while to figure out. So the fact that this can happen and you can
mm,
get that momentum, which
mm,
then can maybe make other areas feel light, and then giving you, the motivation or inspiration
mm.
to, look at other areas or whatever, because you got one thing down, one thing's
Yeah.
harmony. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's such a like accessible thing that everybody can do. Like, so that's such a, I mean, I haven't even heard that. It was so fascinating to me. I'm definitely going to try that.
Send you some best skin ever. And
Yeah.
that's a great, men too. That's easy. It's not that complicated, so a lot of men, if men are doing something, they love the best skin ever. And we have like frankincense ones or sandalwood. But yeah, again, olive oil is like so beautiful. And you could literally just clean out all the commercial stuff.
Mm.
And if you just had like a bag of baking soda, a bottle of olive oil, coconut oil, and aloe vera plant, I mean, the things that you could take care of in your body without, other stuff is pretty phenomenal. So I write about that in my book too. A great face toner, for example, is apple cider vinegar. But you want to dilute it, like maybe about 60-40% with spring water or good water. And if you don't have good water coming out of your taps for your face, you could get like just a beautiful bottle of, spring water in a glass bottle, have that on your counter. Again, that'll last for a few months. And then you can put that on your cotton pad and just really take care of your skin that way. Or, add that to your apple cider vinegar toner.
Wow. And of course, you do have,
Natural acids,
yeah, because I've seen
instead of
some
all that
crazy stuff
chemical.
on YouTube where they're just putting this, just the apple cider vinegar. And I was like, oh my
You need to
God.
dilute it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really helpful to
It's
know. And
also a great hair rinse. So after I shampoo, and I'll just say it while we're here at shampoo, it's about you're cleaning your scalp. It's not really about cleaning your hair. So
mm,
what's so key is that you're really getting those finger pads connected to the scalp
mm,
and really getting that lather going all around. Like you should be working that scalp that your arms are going to be a bit tired because you got like 5 minutes of really rocking it, lathering it. And then the hair will, just don't even worry about getting shampoo. Like it'll get in there, but don't even think about that. The conditioning's about the hair. So then your
mm,
shampoo, then I'll take, I don't measure, but I have like an empty liter bottle.
mm,
And I always shower. I just wash my hair in the bathtub. So anyway, so I'll fill that. So I'll pour in, I don't know, like, what would that be? An ounce or two
mm,
into the liter, fill that with hot water. So I'll just make it on the spot. And then after I've shampooed and rinsed out the soap, then I will just anoint the apple cider vinegar through the scalp. Then
mm,
I'll put on the conditioner, let
mm,
that sink in for a bit. And then I'll rinse that out. Might
mm,
even add like a more diluted apple cider vinegar for a final rinse, and then maybe a touch of our honey myrtle conditioner.
mm,
And that's really good for keeping the scalp clear because when we don't have a clear scalp, and you may not know because like depending how thick your hair is or whatever,
mm,
but there's so much buildup, and it can be from hormones or not processing DHT, which is a type of testosterone. Could be thyroid. So there could be a lot of things, but you've really got to take care of that scalp because if it is fungal or just stuff on there, itchy, irritated, then you want to up your washing cycle. So if you're only washing your hair once a week, you're going to maybe want to do it every other day. If you have totally short, like man hair, and you've
mm,
got like scalp issues, then you want to start washing it every day, but really get into that scrubbing. And because when our scalps are clogged,
mm,
then the hair follicle gets tighter and
mm,
tighter, like it starts to shrink, the hair gets thinner, and then eventually it's just choked off. And
mm.
that is, that can create hair shedding, alopecia, or like that's how men go bald.
Mm. So is the apple cider vinegar also like a kind of detoxer for the scalp, like just to get rid of that buildup on the scalp?
Yeah, it helps to get rid of the buildup on the scalp. It's also actually, also good for the hair itself.
Mm.
And yeah, it feels great.
Yeah.
You'll get it in your eyes probably, but it'll be okay.
Well, we've been getting all the other stuff in our eyes, which is probably way worse. So we're gonna have to just learn to live with it. Wow, those were just amazing tips. And I'm guessing you have more in your book, Renegade Beauty.
Oh yeah. It's
Yeah.
like It's thick. It's been called the beauty Bible. um,
Exactly.
it's
Mm.
filled, it's filled with so much. And there's like 500 citations in there. I think it is almost 500 pages. There's many chapters. We do deep dives on, there's a breast chapter, oral care chapter, skin chapter, perfume chapter, pregnancy chapter, sun chapter.
Mm.
There's other chapters. And then there's also like renegade beauty recipes.
Mm.
So I've got like, how to make mascara with some charcoal to serums and bug repellents. And then there's another section called Renegade Beauty Solutions, which is
Mm.
kind of like an A to almost Z of, from acne hormones. I don't know, just all the little things that just have short, moles,
Mm.
cherry enigma, those little red dots, like all kinds, like things
Yeah,
in
yeah, those ones. Yeah.
quartz, poison ivy tips, like everything that I knew in my brain at that point is in the book.
Wow. Well, we will be putting the link to that book down below, as well as your website, Living Libations, where people can go check out your products. And I feel like you need like a behind the scenes vlog of like just your skincare, like a reality TV episode of like, what does Nadine do? Like, we've just learned so much. But I'm sure I know on your Instagram, you have a little few things as well. So
Mhm.
people
Yeah,
can,
and then really the book does like,
yeah,
yeah, it's deep in
exactly.
there.
Yeah. Well, Nadine, thank you so much for being with us here today and like just giving us these words of wisdom on how we can start that journey of naturally caring for our skin, our hair, and just getting back to that connection with our true inner beauty.
Thank you.